Sharon, are you here with us? Yes.
Hi, this is Neil with Graveside Paranormal Tours, gravesideparanormal.com, Graveside Paranormal on YouTube. How's everybody liking the tour tonight? Adam, are you here? Talk to us.
Hello everyone, Neil. I hope we're live now. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is very odd what's going on here today. We're getting a lot of technical difficulties. We're going to talk with Mr. Bishop James Cloud, and we're getting technical difficulties. What is going on here? So hold tight for a second. Mr. James Cloud, how are you today, sir?
I'm well. Apparently better than you right now.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. I am getting all these technical difficulties all day long. All day long, so now I have to reset up the camera over on my phone. Can everybody see me over on the Facebook Live right now? Okay. All right, so I'm getting technical difficulties all over. Things are going on and off inside my office right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do things the old-fashioned way when we originally did it, and we're going to talk to Mr. James Cloud. So let me introduce him. Some of the music is gone, but I do have my drink, so if everybody wants to pour their drink, please feel free. All right. Very good. All right. Our guest tonight, Mr. Archbishop James Cloud. Now, Mr. Archbishop James Cloud has been in an active ministry since the age of 18. In the 20-plus years since his original ordination, he has been called to the ministry of deliverance and exorcism. He has been experienced paranormal phenomenon like tonight since he was a child, and recounts these occurrences and the details of some of the exorcisms which he has been part of over the years. He currently holds a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, is a certified alcohol and drug counselor, member of the Sacred Order of St. Michael, member of the Order of the Holy Innocents, has instructed others on the rite of exorcism, and is the founder of Paranormal Research Investigators of St. Michael, otherwise known as PRISM. He's also written other books, an exorcist memoir of the paranormal, which we will get into a little bit later. James, thank you for coming on tonight. I do appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. Always happy to share.
Yeah. Now let's just talk for a second about what's been going on. We were talking earlier before the show starts, just so that we do sound checks and stuff like that. And he couldn't hear me on certain things. And then the minute that we started getting these videos going, started getting the video going, we started getting more and more technical difficulties. He says that this is actually a normal occurrence that happens, and I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting all these print-offs from my printer for whatever reason. I have no idea. My internet keeps flipping on and off. So this is pretty normal for you, James, huh?
It is. You know, I don't know what it is, but the forces I regularly combat don't want messages to get out. And when I actually go to locations, they actively show themselves and attack and everything else simply because of my presence.
Wow, that is crazy, man. I'm telling you. And so let's get right into it. You're from Southern Oregon, base paranormal research investigators of St. Michael PRISM, and that's on your Facebook page, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you became an active in the ministry since you were 18 years of age, but I know most people who choose to be in the paranormal research usually have something that happens in their lives, either traumatic or dramatic in their lives. That's sometimes why people usually choose to go into some of these fields. Can you let us know what happened to you as a child?
Yeah, my whole life has been pretty much defined by the paranormal, and multiple types of paranormal. So, in order to tell my story, I have to quickly let folks know that what I call the sight or sensibilities, whatever people want to call it, has been in our family line for generations, on both sides of my mom and my father's sides.
Okay.
So, for me, my whole journey started when I was 4.
Okay.
This journey started with a different type of paranormal activity, or however people would view it, with a UFO encounter. When I was 4, we saw 3 large black triangular craft hovering overhead, only about 100, 150 feet above us, back in 1976 in California. And my parents didn't experience anything, but that night I was taken. And events happen. If folks want to hear about it, I'm happy to talk about it. But trying to make a longer story short, after that encounter, I started seeing the shadow people on a regular basis. I would see deceased relatives. I would be able to go into locations and sense the history of the locations. So for me, the paranormal, it's kind of like the old saying, I didn't choose the thug life chose me.
Right.
It's the same thing with the paranormal life. And even, almost on a daily basis around the house, I get what I call scouting parties that check me out or wake me up, and they'll be standing at the foot of the bed, the shadow people.
Right.
And I just roll back over because it's so commonplace for me that more than anything, it just annoys me, and I just tell them to go away, and I just roll back over, go to sleep.
Right. I've had that happen, where you're just so tired and you just go, yeah, whatever, I'm going to sleep. Do these things usually happen around like the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually very commonplace for a lot of people. That usually happens. So when you're seeing these things, do you also feel emotions or anything like that? Like if someone went through some kind of death or anything, do you kind of feel the emotional vibe of that?
It depends on the case. Now, the one that come into my home, no. They're there sent by the enemy to scout me out, check me out. There are times like before a case, I'll be physically scratched or manifestations will happen in the home. It's kind of like it's like a little banny hen that's fluffing up its feathers. It knows it can't do much, but it can try to scare you at least. Mm-hmm. And that happens a lot where they attempt to get you unsettled or something. And but when I go to cases where there's a human haunt, I can absolutely pick up on and have picked up on what caused their death, their emotions. I'll see them. And many times I'll also hear them. So, for me, interacting isn't abnormal, but I never go seeking it out. I'm always, because you got to remember, when I'm called out as an exorcist, usually every other avenue has been exhausted. And so, when I'm called out, the proverbial crap has hit the fan, and
right. All hell's broken loose, basically. All hell has broken loose.
Absolutely.
So, I understand. Now, let me ask you one of these things. So, when you get into doing exorcism, of course, you were an assistant at first, right?
Yeah, I assisted my dad since he was an ordained minister in deliverance.
Okay. And can you tell us, what was that first time like for you?
The first time, well, it was quite memorable, actually. my dad was called out to a home where the family was having marriage problems. You know, it started out, it was just marriage problems. They were fighting a lot. And this was actually very odd for them since they were a very happy, loving couple.
Yes.
But they always felt angry in the home, and they took it out on each other. Mm-hmm. So my dad went out to the home, and he started off by praying through the home. Every nook and cranny of the home, he'd open all the doors and go in and pray through every space that was available. And he went through the entirety of the home and then went into the master bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He, just before he was able to open the closet door of the master bedroom, it blew open and an invisible force pushed him backward, went around the entirety of the room, knocked all the pictures and everything else that was on the wall onto the floor. It blasted open the bedroom door and then blasted open the front door of that home and left.
Wow.
So, and my dad, he was 6'4", 260 pounds. So it was a sizable force that knocked him back.
Right. There's some very strong entities that are out there, or demons. And some of them are just so strong. I mean, like I was telling you on the phone that we just came back from the Sally house. And there's like two entities inside that place, and one's strong, but one is just so much stronger. And it's the overwhelming feeling that you get. Have you had any attachments when you started out in the beginning?
No, because we make sure that we pray, that we confess our sins, so that they don't have anything to attach to.
Right.
Unconfessed sin or things that we do in our life can create attachments and affords the opportunity for these things to attach to you. Okay. So by us preparing in that way before any deliverance or exorcism, it pretty much negates that possibility.
Right. Now, I was watching one of your videos, and you were talking about water, and you were talking about 99.9% of water. And I thought it was really cool because I actually almost say the same thing, but just a little bit differently, is that you talk about how you can have a pure glass of water and it can be 99.9% pure water. But that little smidgen could be part of sewage. Am I correct?
Yeah.
What that means is, what you're saying is, in life, you can be as pure as you can be, but all it takes is that little thing to happen in your life, that door to open, either it be through alcoholism, drugs, or anything else. And slowly that door or that water starts to get filled with that sewage. Yeah. And things start to change in your life. You don't really realize it until other people start realizing it. And sometimes it's something that that you really got to go find some help with. Am I correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I really like that when you said that. I was like, man, that's a really cool way of saying it. I really like that. I thought that was neat. Let's talk about possession, but let's talk about the steps: infestation, oppression, obsession, and possession. Am I correct on all of them?
Correct.
Correct. I got an A+ today. That's the only thing that's working today. All right, so let's talk about infestation. The way I talk about, well, I'll let you go ahead, and you go ahead and talk about infestation. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. So infestation, from my perspective, this is your typical haunted house, things that go bump in the night kind of thing. So when we're talking about a possession, usually there are things which begin by occurring in the environment itself. Infestation can look like unexplained anger or rage episodes in an individual. It can manifest as you hearing scratching in the walls that obviously isn't caused by a squirrel or something.
Right.
You might hear footsteps, you might hear voices, that sort of thing that goes on in a run-of-the-mill kind of haunted house. That's what we call infestation. That means that something foreign is in the environment and causing the environment itself to react.
Right, exactly. The way I usually talk about it is infestation. I always like to talk about ants, coming into your house and chewing away at the wood. Slowly and slowly, it just continues to infest until eventually now, let's talk about oppression, James.
Yeah, oppression. So the little ants have chewed through the wood and caused a stir. So oppression is the next stage. Oppression is when this foreign entity starts to affect the person's mind. Could affect their health, their finances, any facet of the individual. Oppression, the entity is not in the person, it's in the environment around the person.
Right.
So it may manifest as depression or anxiety or some other mental health disorder that isn't better explained by circumstances or trauma or anything like that.
Right.
But of course, I usually, as an exorcist, I always tell folks, go talk to a therapist first, give it some time, and then call me back if, nothing's changed.
Right.
Because I want to be sure that, it isn't some undiagnosed mental health disorder or something. I want to be relatively assured that what I'm going to be dealing with is actually this foreign entity versus a mental health issue.
Right, and that is so important because there's a lot of mental issues that are out there, and because of drugs and stuff like that, they seem to mess with the chemicals inside the brain, which a lot of people believe have, when that happens, opens up things inside the brain, and it might be opening up things that we just don't really see or hear, but when people take certain chemicals, that's when they seem to hear and see these things. Am I correct?
Correct, and there's a reason behind that. The Greek word for sorcery that the Bible uses is pharmakeia. So the Greek word for sorcery is pharmakeia, where we get the modern word pharmacy or drug.
Really? I did not know that.
Drug use is sorcery, according to the scriptures, which is absolutely an open invitation, if you will, to these entities.
Wow. Yeah, because that's what you're doing is you're opening them up. Like take for instance when people are taking those bath salts, right? And those people there, I seen this video of this young guy, and you could just tell, man, something else was driving. And I've seen in my professional career where someone else is definitely driving, and that individual is gone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, now let me ask you this, before we get on to the next thing of obsession. But let me just ask you this. When you've come across possession, what is the smell that you smell? Do you smell sulfur? Do you ever smell sulfur?
I've rarely smelled sulfur. Usually it can be sulfur, but it also manifests as like an old urine smell or something along those lines. There could also be the smell of rot or decay, like decaying flesh. Okay. Like you go by a roadkill on the side of the road and it stinks to high heaven. Right. It's the same smell.
See, I've smelled, because I've come across two people that were possessed in the time that I've been doing this. It smells like a burnt tire to me. That's what it smells like to me. Every time, that's how I identify it, is because I've smelt it twice, and it's not that I'm a professional like yourself, but it's just I've noticed certain things on certain people, and this is one of them. It smells like a burnt tire to me. That's just my take on it. Yeah. So let's go on to obsession. So the person now is at the third stage where they start getting obsessed with things. If you want to follow through with that for me.
Sure. Obsession is an interesting state because it's, in oppression, it's affected the mind, but obsession, it consumes the mind. Mm-hmm. So in the obsession stage, the person is either always obsessed with trying to find the answer, so they're using every occult material or what have you to try and answer the questions, or it could be that they're also being they're obsessive over things which are pentagrams, the Baphomet pentagram in particular. other dark occult type things. They might obsess over death, might obsess over their own health or something along that line. They could just obsess over demons themselves.
Right.
But it takes on different flavors for different people as far as how obsession can manifest.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that completely. So then, once we get into that, now we're hitting our fourth stage, possession. If you can lead into that.
Sure. Well, there's two stages in possession, actually. One is an imperfect possession, where a person might be under the direct influence and control of a demonic entity for a period of time. Then it will subside and they're back in their right mind and might not have any memory of that time that had passed. And during the times that they're under the influence, they act totally contrary to their normal natures. And this could look most like schizophrenia.
Right.
Where the odd behaviors, odd thought patterns, speech can be affected greatly. And then they snap back to being a normal walking, talking human being with normal emotions. The final stage of possession is a perfect possession.
Right.
The perfect possession is where the will of the individual has been worn down to nothing. And this entity can then fully use the person as a puppet master controls a marionette. Right. And at that stage, it's very, trying to put a nice word to it, challenging for the individual to live a normal life. Most of the time it ends either in suicide, incarceration, or they're locked into a mental health facility.
Right. Now, you're talking about perfect possession, and some forms of perfect possession do follow through generations. Am I correct on that?
The propensity or the likelihood can definitely go through family lines because it goes back to the sins of the fathers. So if a person has perpetuated certain behaviors or ideologies in the family line, these entities love to play the long game. And so they use multiple generations to do their bidding.
Right. Like some of them throughout the generations is that they give it a name. And so let's say Grandpa Joe all of a sudden gives it to his grandson. He says, "Hey, I was talking to Billy the other day." And he goes, "Who's Billy?" And then he starts to invite Billy into the grandson's life. Does that ever sound, have you ever heard anything like that as a perfect possession?
Yes, well, it will start through the stages, of course, as usual, because they have to wear down the individual's willpower to fight. Mm-hmm. So, but that can usually come through like a spiritual grooming, if you will, where it gets the individual prepared for the final overtake of their mind and soul.
Right. So if you invite in something that is inviting like a child, and the form of this malevolent form takes on the thing of a child, and it's always being invited to the next generation, then it seems like commonplace. It always happens. And then what happens is it just follows generation to generation, and then sometimes it's just the way life is with them. Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things, the other question I have about the forms of possession, can land, not the person, can land be possessed through the four stages of a possession?
Absolutely. Land can absolutely harbor these guys. Because demons, their origin isn't just from fallen angels of the third that rebelled in heaven. They're also some of them are also the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, Rephaim, Anakim,
yes,
the hybrid giants, because they were never meant to be created. They couldn't go to heaven or hell. Mm-hmm. And so their spirits wander the earth looking for a person, place, or thing to inhabit.
Right. And and that's definitely a long story for another day. I'll tell you that, man. That Nephilim story is such an interesting story. I've only read so much about it. I would love to do another interview with you on like the Nephilim. That story there is just an amazing story. But the reason why I'm bringing up the thing about land, here in Illinois, we have a place called Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Bachelor's Grove Cemetery isn't that far from where I live. And when I do the tours through there, I really don't like going there because I get attachments. And what happens is you go through the phases of not feeling like yourself. Like when I was a kid, I used to play with Ouija boards by myself. Not a very wise thing. I know that, Archbishop. But it's something that I did do, but I learned not to do that anymore. But so I would get attachments. So my belief is that people in the 1950s started going to this place because they saw balls of light, blue balls of white balls of light going through the sky. And so what happened is it brought in the wrong people. And so what they started to do is they started doing infestation, like I told you, like to a house. You start infesting in it. You start opening up Ouija boards. You start doing cult-like activity. Yeah. Then you're going to all of a sudden reach right into the oppression. Now the land is getting oppressed because you got all these knuckleheads going in there and doing these cult-like activities. And then it goes through the next thing, and then finally you get possession. And then how the real possession happens, this is my opinion, is that now you've possessed the ground. Now you've opened up so many doorways that now people who are just wanting to walk through this forest and if they're very ill-willed and they don't have a strong will, they are open to possession. Am I correct on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just, I felt these things, so many times going through that place. It's a very nice, tranquil place like a lot of people talk about. But I don't think it was, I think it's a lot of people who did a lot of stupid things, plain and simple, open up some portals. And that's why the grounds are what they are. And that's my opinion on it. And I know there's other people out there in the Chicagoland area who have their own opinion on it. But let's ask you another question. Is there a hierarchy of demons?
Absolutely.
Can you explain?
Well, the hierarchy, you have to think of it in military terms. So you have your buck privates that are basically like imps, the regular little shadow people, that kind of thing. Those would be most akin to like a buck private right out of boot camp. They're moderately trained on what to do, but they don't have the wisdom yet to fully apply every aspect of that training until they've been in the field for a while. Then you have your sergeants, your lieutenants, and then you have the big boys, as Basil, Lucifer, Beelzebub, all those guys. The Baals or the Balls, however folks want to pronounce that. All of those, the big boys have never directly took an interest in a person per se. They're always staking out land, like little nation states, if you will.
Okay.
It's now a lot of times during investigation, absolutely you'll hear a demon say they're the devil or something else, and I always call BS on it because the devil is not going to just focus on one person unless it's like Antichrist or something. Or like when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. But these guys are looking at global movements, global things that are
anarchy,
influence whole societies. The little guys, now they might say they're Satan or they're a certain entity. It is most likely reflecting who they take their orders from instead of who they actually are.
Okay. Wow. I agree. I agree completely with you that it's always it's a hierarchy of, just like you said, like in the military, you have your lieutenants, your sergeants, your privates, and so on and so forth. Now, the difference between the evil one and the demons is what?
Well, Lucifer was the big ringleader of the rebellion in heaven. When we can read in the scriptures, he said, "I'll exalt my throne above the throne of God. I'll sit on the mountain of God." Basically, I'm so beautiful and perfect that I can be God.
Yes.
So it's total pride, total self-absorption, if you will, that this person, this entity can have. It just focuses on his own mind, mechanisms, whatever. Now, a demon, a run-of-the-mill demon, and I say run-of-the-mill, but come on, they're all pretty hardcore. The run-of-the-mill one take their orders and implement the plans of those that are higher up. Ultimately, the end game and the reason why the demonics are harassing people is because they know they can't directly confront God. They've tried that in the past, and they had their butt handed to them.
Okay.
So they fully understand that we can't do this. But in order to hurt God, they hurt the ones that he loves. And so it would be like someone that hates you or I or whatnot, but they decide to attack our children instead, so that we're going to be riled up, we're going to be hurt, because they know they can't hurt us, but they can hurt the kid.
And that's how they feed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, after you've identified when someone has possession, what is, and you've gone through the mental process, you've had the person see psychiatrists, you've gone through all the process that you're supposed to go through, basically your protocol.
Yeah.
How do you go about helping release this person from possession?
Well, you can never approach an exorcism with the idea that you can somehow negotiate or, come to a peace treaty, if you will. You have to go in as if you are taking over an enemy territory. Just like you have to think of it again in military terms. If you're going to take out a beachhead of the enemy, you have to go in full force. Okay. There can't be any second guesses. There can't be any, light footing around the issues. So when I set to exorcise an entity from a human's body, I'm very kind to the person, and I'm always checking on them and making sure that they're okay.
Okay. But
when it comes to actively confronting the demonic, I don't pull any punches. I'll call it out, and we get into literally a verbal fight, and I'm throwing up holy water, I'm reciting prayers. Sometimes I follow the Roman ritual. Other times I get prompted by God to just do it straight on. And so
now, like your father, you said that when that one demon got out of the house, and you said it basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you said burst past your father, and your dad was 6'4", 250 pounds?
Yep.
Now, physically, have you ever been attacked while you were doing any of these exorcisms?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I think of one fairly recent exorcism was last year. And during the process of exorcism, I turned my back to go get more holy water. And so it was no more than 10 feet or so from the individual. And all of a sudden I felt this piercing pain in my back. Okay. And, it made me want to whimper a little bit because it hurt really bad.
I understand. Believe me. I wasn't
going to give it the satisfaction of knowing it hurt me.
Right.
So I just went about my business, and sure enough, there were scratches and marks on my back.
Sure.
Because I had turned my back to it. And like I said before, these guys, they try to intimidate you or break your will during the exorcism itself. through just a host of things. Sometimes they'll call out sins, or sometimes they'll just mock you, or say God can't do this, or your God's weak, or blah blah blah. It's the same old stuff. They're just really shooting off their mouth because it's like a cornered animal. Both it and I know what the outcome's going to be, but they're fighting tooth and nail to try and make me second guess myself, or make my faith drop off at some point so that they can then regain control in the individual.
So what the longest exorcism you ever did is probably how long?
Not long, because I don't allow it to go long.
Okay.
It's maybe an hour, 2 hours, right in there.
Okay.
Because as soon as I start, I set ground rules for this guy. When I go to attack, I tell them, one, you can keep your mouth shut. You can't hurt this person. You're not going to do it. If you do it, I'll inflict the wrath of heaven on you, basically. And you're going to obey everything I say, and I'm not going to hear any other words sideways. Now, that doesn't mean they're still not going to backtalk and gripe and moan and, like I said, try to break my faith. But by and large, they obey the parameters I set for them.
I understand. I can totally understand that. And when that individual is finally, you have done the complete rite of exorcism, do you notice just like a totally different look on an individual's face after that exorcism has been completed?
Absolutely.
Like, do they just like go, like a deep breath, just like, like if they were going a long run and they just totally working out or something like that, and then finally they just stopped and just go, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm just so relaxed now. That kind of thing?
One of the biggest things people do right after that is sleep. Because one, they've probably not been able to sleep for a good long time and they're tired. And really their body's been through the ringer with this thing inside them. And so they rest. Many times there'll be, this expression of joy on their face.
Right.
And they'll start laughing, but it's a genuine laugh. It's not the mocking laugh of...
Like a happiness laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the one exorcism I did about a year ago, like I was saying, when I was done, the person walked to their front door, took a deep breath of air, and they said, "This is the first time in a very long time I've smelled the flowers in the garden."
Wow, that is amazing. That is really... Now, how many, if you come across shadow people before?
Oh, yeah, untold amounts of shadow people.
Now, do you believe that every shadow person, that people see the entity of a shadow person, is demonic?
I've been on the fence personally with that, because some of them may be a human haunt, or they absolutely could be a demonic. It just depends on what behaviors the shadow person is exhibiting.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. So if a shadow person is actively attacking people in the environment, they're tormenting them or whatnot, that absolutely leads me to think, yeah, they're probably demonic. Okay. If the shadow person's basically minding their own business, but you see them from time to time darting around, or they run away from you when you approach, most likely they're a human spirit.
Okay. See, like, I'm on the fence just like you are. I sometimes think that sometimes shadow people are spirits that just are reaching out to people, but that's the way they look. And we might sometimes be looking the same way to them. And that's where I'm on the fence about it too. I know of a story where this one lady, she had MS, and she would get visits from her daughter that died. And down in the basement area, they had a shadow person that nobody would ever do laundry with. It was on the show Sightings back in the 90s. on the place some years ago, and I was talking to the lady. I found the lady. I just by total accident, and she showed me the real video, what sightings could not show. And you see this dark figure. What's odd about a shadow creature is that, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they always move left to right. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, they always shift their weight left to right.
And I wish I knew why that is. I really do. But
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing. Now, here's another good question. Do you believe the Antichrist is here, or is he coming?
I believe that it's both. So the spirit of Antichrist, which is anything that's opposed to Christ, that tries to replace Christ, even Jesus said that it's here now, at his time. But the Antichrist, the big boy that's coming up, I do believe that he's coming, but I believe he's alive and well today. Just from the state of the earth and the fulfilled prophecies that are coming to pass, even here within the last few weeks, have really cemented my belief that this guy, this ultimate peacemaker, good guy, sweet guy, that everyone will love, which is contrary to what people think when they think of Antichrist,
right,
is alive and well today.
Yeah. It's just that every generation, I would say every couple generation has almost the same issues. And sometimes I think the media, because we're in a very media, like you and I are talking on Facebook right now. 10 years ago, you and I would not have been doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I think there's more emphasis out there. And the other thing I talk about is because of the media and the way that we're on Facebook, we're all on these things that, take, for instance, what we're doing today. We're having electrical problems, you and I.
Yeah.
Can these demons be working through these machines?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that too, man. Like I told you in the beginning of the day, I was like, man, I don't know what is wrong today. I go, but everything just seems to be just really bad. And I have no idea what was going on. And you and I had a lot of technical difficulties in the beginning. So I said, we'll just go back to the way that we do things. And that's why we're doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we talked about perfect possession. And I wanted to get a little more into perfect possession. Because you remember we were talking about Father Malachi Martin. You remember he was the leading exorcist for the Catholic Church, I believe in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And he talks about it, and I saw him do this 2020 special once. I don't know if you ever saw it. I think it was 2020, 60 Minutes, one of those talk shows, those news stations. And they were talking about demons. And they were in New York City. And he goes, where the most demons are in the subway of New York City. Now, I'm not knocking New York City. Understand that. I'm just going by what the man said. And he went up and down. He was wearing his traditional priest outfit. And he was God blessing people. And people were like, oh, thank you, Father. Thank you very much. It was very nice of you. And then all of a sudden, some people would go, just start swearing, how dare you, and this and that. And I've seen this a lot on street corners in New York City on some of these videos. Some of these people just do not look like what they should. But then this one guy walked up to this guy who was acting like that, like Father Malachi Martin said.
Yeah.
And he started talking to him with the Bible in hand. And the guy started crying. And he just started, it was weird, man. I don't know if it was a total setup, to come to his church or what. But it was just really, really interesting. So when someone gives a name of a demon, when they think it's just a cute little thing like we were talking about, when we were talking about perfect possession, are we inviting that demon into the house? Like I've seen these videos of little children, and they see these other little children, and they start talking to them. Is that a demon? Is that a demon, or is that something else?
So I will answer your question by going on my own case history. So most, probably upwards of 98th percentile here. So it's most cases. When there's a quote-unquote child spirit, this is a demonic. it's not attacking anyone or anything else. This is its deception stage. This is getting back to the water that's 99.9% pure with the drop of sewage in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the best lie is one that's baked with truth.
Right.
So these demonics love to try and get people to feel sorry for them, to almost have compassion on them, and by doing that, even though the person is truly being compassionate and wanting to care for this, what they believe is a child spirit,
right,
what they're actually doing is opening themselves up for more emotional and intellectual manipulation over the long haul for this demonic entity, because, like I said, 98% of my cases that involve a child spirit, there's always another spirit that's the mean one. It's like good cop, bad cop kind of thing.
Okay.
Where one is, oh, poor me, I'm such an innocent, defenseless, whatever. And then the other one's the big meanie that's causing all the ruckus. Well, in my experience, it's the one and same entity. It's just choosing to show itself in two different ways to play this mind game with the people in the environment.
I agree 110% with you. I've come across certain things where they tell me a child spirit is down there. And after doing research, or actually investigation, not research, but investigation, I've actually, by accident, when we do like a tour or something like that, I tell people in the beginning, I was telling them at the place that this is not a child, that this is a malevolent spirit pretending it's a child. And it's trying to invite us in, which is all fine and good if we get some evidence. And that's what I like. I enjoy that. But I identify it as a malevolent spirit. But when I say it at the place, all the equipment stops. Everything stops. Such was the thing at Sally House. We had it whereas, and I hate to keep talking about it, but it was such an interesting place, is that I even told Steve, that's my business partner, we went there and I said, I won't say anything because supposedly there's supposed to be a little girl. Sure enough, on our Facebook Live broadcast, I go and I say, this probably isn't a child, it might be a malevolent spirit. And then at like 11, 12 o'clock, all of our EMFs, because they were all on yellow most of the night, yellow to red, most of the time yellow. And then all of a sudden, the minute I say this, it doesn't want to play no more. Now I don't want to play.
Because you exposed it.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's a very odd, it's so weird, and I hated that I made that mistake. But we all make these mistakes at doing what we do. I mean, it's just what we do, you know. But one of the things, I had a guy send me an email, or I was talking to him on instant message, and he was telling me about a lamp, I think it was some kind of candle lamp that he got. What's that?
Oh, I was just agreeing and listening to your story.
I thought you said stop. I thought you were going to tell me something cool. And he was telling me how there were 96 demons inside this lamp from an exorcism at a place called Overlook Asylum. Have you ever heard this story before?
No.
Can somebody do an exorcism and somehow place them inside of a lamp?
No.
No, I didn't think so, man.
To the check. No.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I go, what is this, Aladdin? What the hell is the guy talking about? But it was an interesting story nonetheless. The guy was an interesting story that he was telling me, and I just thought it was really, really interesting. Let's get into your book a little bit.
Okay.
Now, if you could please, now the book's name is, again, what do I have? What is the name of the book? Our book, Walking with Ghosts, an Exorcist Memoir of the Paranormal. Now, you can get, now just so everybody knows, you can get this on Amazon. I believe it's only like $12.50. Am I correct on that, James?
Yeah, it's not too expensive at all.
Okay. You want to give us a little brief talk about it?
Yeah, my book actually started more as a family diary of sorts.
Oh, okay.
So, like I had said at the beginning, the paranormal supernatural has been in our family lines for generations. And so my book was really started as a way to keep the notes of all the different happenings in the family line as well as my own lives for my kids, so that they would, have something to, because I think everyone should know their history, where they come from, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so that was my attempt to really jot down everything I'd heard and seen from the family as well as my own life. And then I tried to put it into more of a narrative form for more folks, because the saddest thing is when people experience hauntings or whatnot, they're very quick to keep it hush-hush, because they don't want people to think they're crazy or nuts or whatever, adjective that people are going to place on them.
Right.
So I felt I should share it.
Sure, and you know what, I like we were talking about the other day, I call it GA, Ghost Anonymous, where everybody has to kind of open up about these things. It's the same thing, it's like counseling, like you do for like drug addiction or anything like that. Something has suppressed people, and it helps. Like yourself, you're writing this memoir, and like you said, you want to give it out to your family, and it's almost like a guide if these things happen, so that they could probably, learn from it, so that they know how to do things. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, and in the book, it's from a Judeo-Christian perspective on how to approach these things or understand these things.
Right.
Because one thing that most folks don't know is that the book of Job in the Old Testament, which is actually the oldest written book of the Old Testament, contains the first reference to a shadow person that actually spoke to the friend of Job.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And it says he darker and dark and made all of his bones shudder.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so I like you're writing these memoirs, and I think that's a great thing. And like I said, I'm going to buy this book by the end of the week, and just check it out. The thing is that everybody out there, they sometimes, like you said, they're scared. They don't know what to talk to. They don't want to seem like they're a nutball, as some people would call it. But maybe there's just something deep inside that they need help with. And people like yourself, Archbishop, I think it's great with the things that you do. I think it's really nice, especially when people reach out to other people and they talk to them. You came on here tonight to talk to me and the little crowd that I have, sir, and we do appreciate that. So what I want to do is I want to take time for you to go ahead and tell us all the sites that you would like everybody to go to, and go right ahead, sir.
Well, I absolutely invite folks, like you said, to check out my book on Amazon. If you're a Kindle subscriber, I believe you can actually get it free.
Yes, I did see that.
But I never wrote the book to make money anyway. It was just, something to do, basically.
Hey, man, if it makes you happy, that's the thing. If it helps others, that's the thing.
Then, of course, Paranormal Research Investigators of St. Michael. Mm-hmm. That's my exorcism group in Southern Oregon here. We're on both the internet and our Facebook presence. The Facebook actually has a direct link if you go onto the group's website the group's Facebook for the website, because the website itself is a free site and it's through website service, so it's a long, drawn out web address. So it's easiest to click in through the Facebook page to find that.
With all your links are in the Facebook page?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you have a YouTube channel as well. I was looking at that. So
my YouTube channel is just Archbishop James Cloud.
Right. So if people want to check you out, it's Archbishop James Cloud on YouTube. He's on his Facebook page. The Exorcist Journey on Facebook. Also the St. Michael Prism on Facebook. So please check him out. James, I appreciate you just coming by tonight and talking to us. We made it through this thing, man, with all these... Ladies and gentlemen, it was unbelievable. The printer was going off. It was shooting out paper. we could not get a connection. He couldn't hear me sometimes. I really don't know what happened tonight. It was definitely something odd. I can say that. So to everybody tonight, I say God bless you, and as always. Oh, but hold on, I got one other question. Did you ever hear of spirit Malik? One of our guys, he's asking, have you ever heard of a spirit named Malik?
Well, I know
Or demon.
The Malik demon, most closely associated with the Warrens. But I've not run across Malik personally. I've actually come in contact with the Death Angel twice, Azariel. And that was interesting, to say the least, on both of those cases.
Now, how, now you got me to go more, man. How do you know that's the demon that you're dealing with?
One, it told me its name flat out in my ear.
So it did?
Yes. It had no problem. And Azariel's a fallen angel. So it's not, it's part of the 1/3 that rebelled. But in the case itself, people were on death's door. They weren't possessed, but Azariel was quickly deteriorating their health so that they would soon perish. And so my intervention saved them.
Wow, that's wow, man. Well, I'm going to call it a night for everybody. And once again, I thank Mr. Archbishop James Cloud for coming on tonight. Once again, we're going to put up his book tomorrow night on Facebook for advertising with all his links on there. We were also going to be on Spotify and Anchor FM, where all this will go to, and we're also going to put this on YouTube tomorrow night for everybody for Saturday. And I'd like to everybody and Mr. Archbishop James Cloud, thank you for coming on tonight. Thanks for all watching. And as always, boo.